In the next hour, we'll talk about a column that I wrote today on the city and mass transit, and we'll probably take your phone calls as well, as we did last Friday. So last Friday, I was talking about a series of columns that Washington Post columnist Michael Gerson has been writing. And if you read him regularly, he is a Republican. He is a former speechwriter for George W. Bush. He has been writing from the heart, from the soul, about why the Republican Party cannot and should not, for the sake of its heart and its soul, support Donald Trump as its candidate. And they've been tough columns if you're a member of the Republican establishment. And the heart of the columns, the point of the columns, is that there is more to politics than just being a Republican or just being a Democrat. And most of us out there in the hinterlands who aren't necessarily one party or the other party can talk in cocktail parties about how we voted for Barack Obama, and before that we voted for George W. Bush, and maybe we even voted for an independent candidate at some point. We don't necessarily belong all the time to one tribe or another tribe. Well, Mr. Gerson will be in town tomorrow night at Washington University to talk on a panel with John Inazu, who joins us now. He's an associate professor of law and political science at the Washington University School of Law, and he has written a book, Confident Pluralism, Surviving and Thriving Through Deep Difference. The book, as I understand it, John, talks about how we have to get past this idea in our society that we're just into these extreme camps that can't talk to each other anymore.
Right, and really the idea, starting with the premise that we're going to be deeply divided over a whole lot of issues and important issues, but that we've got to move toward finding common ground, even if we can't agree on a common good, and the significance, the challenge of that effort, but the necessity of that effort.
What do we do to get there? I mean, I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine who we were talking with my son, and somebody just said, well, you know, he's 10, you know, who do you like for president? My son said anybody but Donald Trump, which made me proud, by the way. And the person's reaction was, well, you can't vote for Hillary Clinton. And it was just so typical of where we are as a society right now. Well, wait a minute, that's what a presidential race is. It's one person or the other. And if you've decided that Donald Trump is a bigot and doesn't represent Republican values, is it okay for Republicans to vote for somebody who isn't in their party?
I think a lot of people are going to be facing up to that question. But I think the broader point that your comment highlights is that most people are a lot more complex than two polar opposite viewpoints, right? Most people hold views that are nuanced and sometimes in tension with each other. And when we actually get to know people and listen to what they believe, we find out that they're beyond caricatures, that we can actually find a great depth of nuance with different people.
There's a group out there over the last couple of years that's gained some notoriety called No Labels, and their idea is that if we talk more about specific issues instead of always labeling something a Republican or an idea or a Democrat idea, that people actually find common ground with some of the issues. Do you think that that's sort of a way for us out of this extremism that we kind of have right now?
I think that's a start. That has to be part of it. When you think about some of the major issues confronting even this city with immigration and criminal justice reform and those sorts of things, public education, those don't necessarily slice neatly into one major party or the other. And good people of good will in both parties have serious efforts to try to tackle some of these big challenges. So that's part of it. But the related point that I try to make in the book is, in trying to cross these bridges and trying to relate to each other, we don't give up on our deeply held principles. We don't fake or feign false unity. And that's another part of the problem, is too many people seem to want to hold hands without realizing that there actually are serious differences that may not be overcome.
I think that's one of the things that has really struck me in the last few years. The last presidential race between President Obama and Mitt Romney was striking to me because of the Affordable Care Act, which specifically came from a group of Republican ideas and pushed through a state in which Mitt Romney was the governor, and there was this dancing, this crazy dancing of all of a sudden we hate all of the ideas in the Affordable Care Act because now they're President Obama's ideas. And I saw a brief snippet of a study, I haven't seen if it was actually a full poll or whatever, the other day that said that if you present Barack Obama's ideas to Donald Trump voters and tell them that they're Donald Trump's ideas, they like the ideas that they've been hating on for the last couple of years.
The framing and the packaging of issues in this way is one of the things that really hurts our possibilities of discourse. Another great example here is the judiciary, right? I think many judges and federal judges in this country are good, smart lawyers who are trying to do the right thing. But as soon as any of them get nominated or suggested for a Supreme Court slot, they become ideologues and extremists, and both parties are doing this. And so it's no wonder we have a logjam on judicial nominations.
Have you ever seen anything like it is right now where we've got a Supreme Court with only 8? We've got a president nominating somebody who is considered by many people, Merrick Garland, one of the most qualified people out there to be nominated for the Supreme Court, and they can't even get a hearing, can't even meet with a lot of the Republicans.
Yeah, the basic point of a hearing seems like it needs to happen, right?
I would agree. So tell us about your event tomorrow night. What should people expect? Where is it?
Sure. So this is Mike Gerson of the Post is coming in, and at 7 o'clock at WashU's Law School on the main Danforth campus, he and I will have a discussion about my new book. We'll have some dialogue, and then we'll take audience questions, and then there will be books available in a small reception afterwards, free and open to the public, and would love to see people come out.
Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Washington University School of Law, John Inazu and his new book, I'm going to make sure I read it right, Confident Pluralism, Surviving and Thriving Through Deep Difference, and Michael Gerson, columnist for the Washington Post, will be in. John, thank you very much for taking the time. This is a topic that I find fascinating, because I live in this world, and it's funny. I get emails every single day calling me a liberal pinko commie, and it's people that don't understand my own history of politics and don't even read nuance into the pieces that I write. And I tell people this all the time. I voted twice for George Bush and twice for Barack Obama. That's the world today, the Big 550 KTRS.